is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by
We've cut and reduced our MTN Momo withdrawal rates. Now you can withdraw mobile money at the lowest rates. You also get MTN Century Points when you deposit, send and withdraw MTN mobile money. Visit our Momo agents countrywide and withdraw mobile money at our reduced rates from 1st May 2021. Everywhere you go, MTN.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field couldn't be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite shows.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Echa COVID-19 chijja kugwa. If we get vaccinated now, observe social distancing, wear masks properly, sanitize or wash our hands with soap and water regularly. Together we can defeat this enemy.
Therefore, understanding this model. Hey, excuse me, lady. Who do you think you are? A queen?
Hey, haven't you heard? Get Airtel Chillax bundles and browse like a queen.
Get Airtel Chillax bundles that do not expire and browse like a queen or king. Dial *175# or use My Airtel app. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning once again. Thank you for keeping it on UBC TV. Now it's a cold morning, and in case you're leaving home, carry something to keep you warm. If you have infants, ensure they are warm, because usually cold weather comes with a couple of diseases and colds as well. But also importantly to note, we are in the breastfeeding week, which began on the 1st of this month and will be ending on the 7th of this month. So we encourage people, we encourage mothers, we encourage fathers to encourage mothers and create conducive environment, employers to have these infants benefit from that. They say the milk, that breast milk, especially the first breast milk, is very important to the baby in terms of promoting their growth, but also in terms of boosting their immune system at that early stage. So please, let's embrace this move. This is why we have a whole month that was declared globally, a whole week, sorry, that was declared to promote, to create awareness on breast milk and its importance, and why mothers should ensure that they breastfeed each and every child that is born, unless there are extreme options. And the good thing is, breast milk does not transmit COVID-19. So a COVID mother who is positive can breastfeed as long as you have a mask on, and then you ensure that the baby gets this milk properly. But that is not our story for Newsreel. What we are looking onto this morning is issues regarding how we can best get finances to ensure that the country acquires vaccines. Now, parliamentarians did yesterday reject a motion that was tabled by, that is Zombo woman member of parliament, Esther Afayo Achan, that aimed at ensuring that each member of parliament on their salary, they are deducted 2 million. And this would contribute to purchasing the Pfizer vaccine that is used to vaccinate children. Because she was saying, if we can raise $1 billion shilling, that is, we have 529 members of parliament. If each contributed 2 million, that would be to about 1 billion, and that would buy vaccines for children between 2 to 18 years, and maybe schools reopened. Members of parliament, many said this contradicts the rules of parliament. Others were very clear, and they said we cannot contribute. Even the Employment Act, this is not something that is legally. We cannot sacrifice our salary for this. And a couple of reasons, as we'll be discussing later, some that made to the floor of parliament and what justification they were giving for not contributing towards this. I'll begin with Felix. Felix, we need money to purchase vaccines, however hard it is to find a market where we are going to purchase them. Members of parliament are people's representatives. And when Esther came up with, Honorable Esther Afayo Achan came up with this, maybe many expect that this is something that they'll take in goodwill, good faith, and give back to communities as part of what they earn from parliament.
Well, first and foremost, probably that's quite significant in bringing out the true picture of the kind of parliament we have in terms of what we call social welfare. COVID-19 has brought the bitter truth of the kind of leaders we do have in this country, and that is not limited to parliament in particular. A couple of days ago, you do remember that members of parliament received over 100 million for them to purchase cars, and the same is not subjected to any sort of accountability or follow-up or M&E in terms of whether or not the cars were purchased or the money was used actually for that purpose. It is also in precedent that we have had members of parliament in this country die in taxis even after such money has been disbursed. So the proof of the need of such allocation cannot be qualified up till today. Why I say that is that we may judge members of parliament on a spectrum of morality, yet it is not their obligation. Again, that's a matter of fact. You may find that members of parliament may be legally required to make law, to propose bills, to allocate the budgets and all henceforth and all other duties. However, morally, you can check them, but you cannot judge their efficiency in terms of performance as members of parliament depending on their failed moral uprightness. This was a more of a moral approach from these individuals, which you may not use to judge parliament. However, you see, if you don't do the moral bit, do the legal bit. And that's where it brings all the contradiction. That if you want to judge them on the legal aspect of their entire mandate or their constitutional mandate in terms of allocation, accountability, and checking and balancing, they have also failed at that. Between you and me, you know that up till today, the Cartoon 2 Commission or committee has failed to deliver.
This week they released their report that they mentioned key areas, and one of them was accountability, where they said we should look at the monies that have been given to government in terms of COVID-19, about maybe 5 trillion. They called for auditing of this.
Now, once a commission sits over a matter and doesn't make effective deliberation on the same effects and does not use its findings to cause effective deliberation or to cause effect on whatever should have been done yet not done, it's as good as useless. Now, the reason why people get concerned when members of parliament refuse to part with about 2 million shillings each is because the 2 million shillings is not actually the problem. Let's imagine if parliament had followed up this, because, for example, how do you reach the point of inquiries? It is because there was a lacuna in terms of monitoring. As the body that also allocates these monies, when do they monitor to cause evaluation away from investigating? Now, if everything was being done right, we wouldn't be needing members of parliament 2 million or whatever. But that is the evidence that they are not doing a good job in terms of monitoring and evaluating, which is one of their roles in terms of checks and balances. Because they allocate this money. This money, most of it came as supplementary budgets, were loans, which were agreed on by parliament. But now you're coming back to check how this money was used after it has been used. Now, the absence of on-time participation of the members of the August House is what causes this, that to the point of us starting to beg them, give us 2 million off your salary, which is up to them. Some can agree, like the person who proposed, thought it was a good idea, but the rest showed him clearly that it is not. Because how then do you have confidence? You're still carrying out an investigation on someone. That's why when someone is given bond, do you want them to bring their travel documents? Because you're not trusted. You can flee, you can what. So the government is still, particular institutions are still being investigated about how they spent this money. And the evidence so far up till today is that there was misuse of the funds. Now, you want also to get this people's salary and add it on the misuse. And that's why you have not seen many people from the private sector also contributing, which was the case in the beginning. In the beginning of all this. Now, this is the evidence that along the way, there's been losing of trust in how these matters have been handled. You get it? But again, the blame would be cast back to the August House, because for them, they must be like the watchdogs. They have those committees.
Well, I'll bring in Priscilla. Priscilla, looking at Parliament rejecting this proposal, as Felix said, morally, it could be wrong, but legally, there is nothing. And we remember even in the 10th Parliament, when the Speaker of Parliament proposed that members of Parliament should give towards Zambia cancer facility. At the end of the day, it was rejected, and later they had to bring consent forms. That if you feel you want to give, then you fill this consent form, and then the money is deducted. This time, the Deputy Speaker asked those that are willing to do that, get your money, approach the COVID-19 task force. Felix brings in an issue of lack of trust in how these funds have been dealt with. But we also know that we have a challenge of procuring these vaccines. Very funny is, even up to now, we are still depending on donations. We've not yet been able to have vaccines given to Ugandans out of the taxpayers' money. Talking about issue of lack of where to purchase these vaccines, does this really make sense that wouldn't Parliament now be pushing for how best we can purchase, not in terms of monies, because even it seems when we have monies, we can't purchase?
Well, yeah, I think that's where the mistrust is coming in, that matters in the budget, they've put away billions of money to be able to handle purchases for the vaccines, and then another entity is telling you they don't have purchasing power, the bureaucracy of the purchasing power, given that we're a third world country and all that. So it's quite meaningless that even when you add up the 2 million out of the 529 members of parliament, which would come up to about 1,058,000,000 shillings, that even if you put that aside, it's going to sit down and do what? Because again, there seems to be a push that we are depending on donations, and until we receive as donations coming in from different parts, I think we received one over the weekend from Norway, those donations are the ones that are going to help in the vaccination drive to be able to manage COVID-19 here in this country, which then again goes back to the conversation of the potentiality of us getting into a third wave if we're going to be dependent. But then it brings in for me the perspective of dependency. We are a third world country, and one of the characteristics of third world countries is that we are aid dependent. Aid could be monetary, aid could be tangible, it could be product, service, something like that, but there's always something that we are depending on from a first world country to give us so that we can be able to exist or to coexist in our economies and different infrastructure. When you look at the health sector, it's been one that has highly benefited from dependency on aid. You've talked about the Cancer Institute and how it was raised and there was no obligation that was coming in from the members you feel should be responsible for their people that they represent. And then you have other entities such as Rotary putting Ugandans together and collecting funds from here and abroad to be able to put up a cancer institute. Not one, not two, and they're continuing to do that. And so that in the past has given government the leeway to sit back and not, press so much into investment. Even when they've done the investment, we saw a machine that was purchased, I think in 2018, 2017, for one of the institutes in Mulago, and yes, and it was a fake machine. It wasn't up to standards. So it shows you that there's so much that is causing question marks to the end user or the end consumer of this service delivery, as we could put it. Now, when you look at that, the dependency on aid, what more do you expect us to do?
But here I want to bring in Felix with issues of accountability. I think COVID-19, like Priscilla said, we've received donations, we've gotten loans, and there is so much that maybe we could have done. Yes, we accept this is what has been done, but I think there's so much wanting. How can we best promote accountability? Recently, we saw government looking at measures of raising 600 billion, making cuts to ministries and parastatals, some up to 40% of their budget to raise these funds, and these monies were raised.
Well, of course, accountability is a spirit and a discipline. Accountability must either be crafted within the strategies and policies of any sort of governance, and the evidence later will be seen. The question is, accountability for this country is not a system craft, okay? And that exposes so much of what happens in such a country. And that I don't want to attribute to a third world country, because other countries have done it smartly. But because of the type of politics we do in this country, you do realize that this is so prone to happen. One, we have politics that is geared towards comradeship and not by far professionalism. When you look at the parliament today, it's a parliament that is more of partisan politics than national politics. That's why you've had the effects of caucuses in terms of nation building and policy and lawmaking. People will talk about a party position than population position or the citizen position. Now, with that kind of approach to matters of strategy and policy, you cannot have fine accountability, even if everything in the law stipulates the same. For example, the existence of checks and balances in constitution, which is intertwined in the tripartite relation of the judiciary, executive, and the parliament, or the legislature for that matter, you must also understand that that is not, if that's not good enough, then what can be good enough? The existence of the office of the Inspectorate of Government as an arm of the executive, you can imagine the existence of the anti-corruption court in the side of the judiciary, the existence of committees like PAC, like COSASE, and many more in the parliament. That gives you a tripartite approach to terms of accountability, that you have the judiciary has institutions, the executive has institutions, the parliament has institutions. Now, that again is not good enough. Then what more can you do? You get it. That, you see, accountability is post-mortem. And that's what we have been arguing, even from the side of civil society. That, however, transparency is what cures. That, do we have laws that credit transparent operations, transparent transactions from any entity of government. For example, you have had many a times Parliament allocate monies to itself unlimited. Same thing to executive, but not much, of course, to the judiciary. That's why you see a lot of corruption in that institution, because they're not in charge of their financial allocations. But if they were, you don't see much corruption in Parliament, because I mean they can just do it the legal way. They can do the legal way. So what I'm saying is that we do not have a systematic appreciation of what we call transparency. Now, yet transparency should be able to help us avoid these issues of accountability. If there are systems that monitor how things should be done, like they should be done.
I think if you
For
added
example,
active systems.
Last time they were asking the Minister of Health, I remember in some committee in Parliament, about the pickups. They asked her, how dare you go to purchase pickups and you've not purchased drugs yet? The pickups are there, the double cabins
Some
are
have
there.
arrived, others we believe.
And I am thinking to myself,
is on, yes.
Again, now, that is the effect of that we call post-mortem accountability. Yet we should be looking at how do we transit to the place where we can have transparency in the process. That the advisory should come in the process to reduce on these post-mortem. Because what is the use of Kirabo? You come into a committee when the money is spent. Now, that's the problem that we are in today. Yeah. Because there was no transparency in executing that particular agenda. That's why today you want to press members of Parliament to give you 2 million, and now it looks like they are bad. Yet actually it's not. That's why I want us to draw a distinction between morality and legal obligation. That they could be morally wrong, and that's the feeling of Ugandans in times like this, blah, 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 blah. But then, let's look at the process. There was money there. Let us enhance transparency within the processes. You heard of these sagas of the number plate, tracking what? Transparency. Now, later on you're going to have inquiries.
Then, yes, committees
you've
set up.
seen all these things. Yeah, when you go to the land disputes, what we are talking about, where do we use the transparency? Away from the commissions, why don't we invest and enhance the transparency within the process of execution? To avoid the post-mortem audits, post-mortem accountability is good, but it is good when the process has been fine. It is useless when the process has been bastardized.
Well, very interesting there. Accountability is something we should enhance. But Priscilla, before we leave this, in the first wave, we saw a lot of donations coming in. I've only seen, I think it was in northern Uganda, where they went to communities and said, you know what, we need money for oxygen, and communities contributed. This time around, it seems Ugandans, even when there was a call, are a bit hesitant to contribute. Is it that they have lost faith in the system, or do we think it is the economic situations that are hindering them to give these contributions?
Well, Felix, the way he has rightly put it in terms of members of parliament, the obligation to contribute the 2 million, it's a moral thing. It's entirely up to their choice for them to contribute. But, you know, that suggestion coming to the floor of parliament is interesting. It reminds me of the 1.5 million shillings that every Uganda owes the government for certain service deliveries.
Our debt burden.
Our debt burden, you know. So if members of parliament are being requested to pay 2 million shillings, each Ugandan is being requested to contribute 1.5 million shillings to cover our debt burden. That is questionable, because then we ask ourselves where the funds that we already have in the different pools that they already exist in, how are they being utilized before we can say that, you know, by the way, yes, we actually don't have sugar, so let me go to my neighbor and borrow sugar. But also in this whole pandemic season, you get to see that we do have a widening gap that is growing between aid that we receive and maturity of, or aid that is committed and maturity of the aid that is received. there's a widening gap. Before it would be that, government of China is committing this much and it's delivered. But now there's constraint to every country. They all have matters of health importance right now to deal with. So there's a widening gap of expectation of aid from other regions or partnerships or countries in whom we're in bed with. Now that causes us to then find solutions to get funding within ourselves. Now again, the beauty about all this, and I keep saying that COVID-19 came as a negative, but it's bringing positives. It's bringing the loopholes into the system, which is causing checks and balance to be brought to book, and accountability, as rightly put, to be able to utilize the little we have, because the little we have can do something. We have money enough to buy 1 million doses, don't we? It is there. It's as simple as, okay, it's not as simple, but you just have to make sure that you do that with the money, with what you have, and also rightly prioritize what is currently important, not what will supplement what is important, which is what we're seeing. The cabins, the vehicles we're seeing, the ambulances we're seeing, they're supplementary to what is important. And yet there's no deliberate action to what is important that we are seeing from this side of the table that we are sitting at.
Well, to conclude, this is, let's get our priorities right. Let's promote accountability and transparency. These are the only ways we can move forward in the fight against COVID-19. Otherwise, with lack of transparency, corruption, and of course, having wrong priorities in the battle to fight against COVID-19 will deter the nation's progress in this fight. When we return, we'll be looking at what is trending in the print media. Keep it with UBC TV.
Is Good Morning Uganda.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Ginger Tea drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Echa COVID-19 chijja kugwa only if we stay at home. Observe physical distancing, wear masks properly, sanitize or wash our hands with soap and water regularly, or get vaccinated now.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, blessed is a hand that giveth than a hand that receives. So always make it your priority to give. And at such a time when people are having various hardships or constraints, please, an act of kindness in giving in whatever form is most welcome. So let's do that so that we are a savior of each other. And talking about that, it's time we give you what is in the print media, some of the highlights in the print media. I have the New Vision, and we'll begin with a big headline there, Golden Chemtai. Chemtai's win makes her the first Ugandan woman to win gold at the Olympics. Then they give you full coverage of that, and good news to the workers. Museveni okays, that is NSSF fund midterm access. Those are people that are saving with NSSF. And still in the new vision, 15 billion released for parish model projects. That is there. The parish model, prepare now to make proper use of this money. Still, the new vision brings you senior for English, entrepreneurship, ICT plus senior to physics and mathematics. But there are also 10 pages of tenders and offers for you in the new vision.
On the Daily Monitor, you can get NSSF cash at 45. His Excellency okays this move. But of course, in the big headline, Olympic gold. Now, moment to Seva Peruth Chemtai becomes the first Ugandan woman to win medals at the delayed, that is Kodrayo Olympic Games in Tokyo, Japan, sprinting to gold in 3,000 meters. That is, of course, that is a steeplechase final. 22-year-old old special police constable, only the third Ugandan to win gold at the prestigious event. Now, Nabanja explains proposed land law and other stories there. We'll look at Lumbie's arrest, worries government critics in the diaspora. Clinical trials for local COVID drugs hang in balance. And, of course, the lizard comes out to ask, yet we still don't know our priorities now. Chemtai winning gold. Inside the papers there, Justice Kenneth Kakuru, the Court of Appeal Justice, has applied for early retirement, and Kabaka Ronald Muwenda Mutebi, the Buganda King, met the president, the state lodge, that is this week also. But from the archives, members of the crazy gang left to the right, Billy Bo, that is Mbowa Kawoya, Tony Williams Sekebeje, that is John Clyde Mayanja, Francis Odida, and Frobisha Senkubuge posed at a Kampala Jubilee Park. That is now Sheraton. That is in 1962. Wow, Crazy Gang was one of the leading youth dance groups then. Wow. Now, today in history, Amin announces expulsion of Asians. That was in August 5th, 1972. And also today in history, first transatlantic telegraph cable laid on ocean floor. That is in 1858.
In the new vision, we still look at statistics of COVID-19, where a new death, 9 people have succumbed to COVID-19 in this country. And we look at confirmed cases, 202. Then positivity rate stands at 5.3%. Total deaths so far in Uganda recorded is 2,734. So please don't be part of the statistics. We are getting, yes, positive results in terms of reduction of cases and death in our country. But just remind you of symptoms. If you have a fever, you have a cough, you have shortness of breath, sore throat, headache, please seek medical attention. The earlier, the better for you. Today in history, it was on this date when Idi Amin expelled Asians. And just the new vision brings you pictures that have happened in the last 35 years of coverage of the new vision. We see President Yoweri Museveni carrying a grinding stone known as Orubengo at Nyenga sub-county in Wiyuke district. He was on his second and last campaign tour of the district, and he was given the Rubengo by LC3 chairperson Sam Kitaka as a sign of how he will run the country if voted into power. Left is that is Dr. Chisamba Mugwera, one of Museveni's campaign managers. By then, that was on the 4th of February 1996.
Now, of course, in Daily Monitor Sports, quite interesting. Nyonyintono also qualifies for, that is 1,500 meter final there. We hope to see her tomorrow also in play. But now they give you a trail in how much we have won since then. Now, Chemtai's win, we're looking at how many gold medals has Uganda won since then. In 1972 Munich, John Akibua, and of course 2012 London, that is Stephen Kiprotich. Now, silver medals, that is in, we had some medals won in 1968, that is in Mexico City by Edidadi Mukwanga, and 1972 Munich, we have had Leo Rawogo, and of course John Mugabe, they are coming in Moscow at that is in 1980, and 2020 Tokyo, Joshua Cheptengai, they are also won. Now, bronze, Leo Rawogo, 1968 Mexico City, 1996 Atlanta, Davis Kamoga, and 2020 Tokyo, Jacob Kiplimo. Basically, that they give you a trail of how much gold we have won and, of course, where we have come out. Now that is a steeplechase. Smiles again after Dorcas Nzikuru. Now Chimtai. Chimtai, the heroine that predicted her gold. And of course, Golden Chimtai. Every story here is bringing you more of what was brought as glory to Uganda yesterday.
And it's not any different when it comes to the New Vision sport. It is Chemtai, how Chemtai defied all odds to claim Olympic gold. They give you more of her journey as to how she has managed to make it to this level of victory for herself, but also for Uganda as a country, winning us gold and being the first female there to win gold at the Olympics from motherland Uganda. But these and more, our sports team is preparing to give you more regarding her victory and those catchy stories in the area of sports.
Of course, the big headline in the Daily Nation, Ruto, victim or schemer? Now, politics DP Ruto started. Well, much of that is in the papers now. Promotions pay boom for civil servants, and they give you an insight into why the deputy president of Kenya was stopped from traveling to Uganda, and of course how far Kenya has also gotten in terms of the Olympics.
Well, very interesting stories regarding the Olympics, and we know this is the talk, but continue also to pray for other participants from Team Uganda at the Olympics. We are doing good so far, and we continue to believe for that. But I also see the traffic lady doing her best, getting prepared to ensure that she informs you of how best, how fast and how safe to get to your area of destination. Felix, before Priscilla comes in as she's preparing, has anybody ever splashed water on you as they're driving and then they splash water? Or have you ever splashed water? Because we're entering into the rainy season. This is something that happens.
Yeah, but yeah, that's happened both ways. I've ever mistakenly done that. Of course, I apologize. Sometimes it's beyond my control, like the potholes. But also sometimes the pedestrians used to have smart approaches. Like you don't stand in an area where you see there are potholes and they're full with water, you know. So I think it's sad, but it happens on both sides, as driving or even as pedestrians. I've been a victim.
So then let's also, legally, is there an offense?
There is definitely. I think up till today you're supposed to pay that person a price of soap and something. I remember studying something of that kind, yeah.
Well, our traffic lady in Good Morning Uganda, that is Priscilla Nalwooga, Nali, aka Nali, is set, smartly dressed, though not in uniform, but ready to take you through traffic updates. Over to you, Afande Nalwooga.
Thank you so much, Robert. You guys were looking at the papers, and I found something interesting in the papers that is traffic related. Yesterday I was talking about engines, and here in the Daily Monitor this Thursday they have something related to engine and technology, and they're talking about oil technology and the sensitivity of the slag and the dirt. In brief, basically what they're trying to tell you is that your car engine has technology and specifications which have unique oil lubrication needs. Now that means that not every oil you find, not every oil that you can afford is actually the right oil for your engine, and so you need to be very, very careful. Engage with the mechanics that you find at the petrol stations while you're servicing your car and you want to have your oil changed. They are basically letting you know that for your oil change you're going to need the exact precise oil that complements your engine type, and the engine types go all the way to, up to 4-5 liters in terms of fuel coverage. But that's something for you to consider, so especially for women, and yeah, I speak for women, not every oil is, so don't insist that you want the one for 2,500, okay, that doesn't exist, okay, 35,000 shillings because you find it cheaper, and yet your car is actually supposed to be consuming the one for 60,000 shillings. Be more mindful of your car than your wallet. There's also another tip here. Is that infrared check engine light on again? Now there's that check light that comes on in front of your car, at your dashboard, and it's always flickering. Now if it's flickering all the time, it shows you that there's a major problem and you need to actually get your car checked right away. However, if it blinks and it stays constantly lighting yellow, then that means yes, there's a problem, but you need to find time as soon as possible to handle the problem. But as long as it's flickering, it shows you and it is telling you, or your car computer system is telling you, that you need to handle that problem instantly. If you don't, someone might end up losing their lives, your car may end up being damaged, an accident or anything because of your ignorance. So every time it blinks, please pay attention. If it's in yellow constantly, again, please pay attention because it's simply telling you something. Now, speaking of telling you something, on our traffic report this morning, we get to look at the Mulago roundabout, which has potholes have been sorted out in most recent times, but there's another area that potholes have been sorted out between 2020 and 2021. They have repaired this road 3 times, and yet we are in the 4th stage of potholes, or the fourth wave of potholes. But anyway, for the Mulago roundabout, we get to see that you do have traffic that is coming in from Kalere, and there's a red zone there, meaning that the traffic that is building up. Initially, there used to be a roadblock, but this after lockdown, after the 30th of July, the president did say that some of these adherences need to be, reduced, especially on the road, to ease traffic. And so the red zone is entirely completely traffic that you're seeing there, which is intercepting with the Mulago roundabout. Now, for the Mulago roundabout, you also have the orange and red zones, which show you that people are trying to use this very same roundabout to either connect to Wandegea, Bombo Road, or they're trying to use to connect to Yusuf Lude, or even for traffic that is coming in from Chira Road. And interesting to see that there are green zones to and from Chira Road, which is questionable of where these people are passing, or they found alternative routes. In lockdown, people found alternative routes of getting to where they needed to get, panyards. Yes, so possibly that is why we do have a grid zone for traffic that is coming in from Old Kira Road. But looking at the stretch between the Mulago roundabout connecting to Wandegea, it is a clear stretch. There's no traffic at all, business as usual in terms of roads and vehicles. But then you come to the intersection here, Bombo Road intersecting with Makere Road. You get to see that obviously there's some traffic jam that is building up, especially at the traffic lights. Now, these traffic lights, originally, because there was a roadblock here on Bombo Road around YMCA, it's been bringing a lot of issues in terms of traffic, and the Wandegea police post here has actually been diverting that traffic to take it back to this route, use the Mulago roundabout and connect to elsewhere you had to connect to. But I know that this situation has changed, so people who have been knowing this roadblock, you can now use the road freely and connect to Bombo Road, connect to Kampala Road, and the likes. So that is how the traffic is looking like. Just to the cities, to the trading center in Wandegea is where you do have the traffic building up. But you get to see that on the other side of Makerere University, you would be expecting some little bit of jam around here, but we're not seeing any jam that is building up, even with the traffic lights there. You get to see some of those roads that actually do contribute to the jam there. You do have Gaddafi Road that brings in traffic all the way from Old Kampala Road, having a clear route. One of the busy routes that has become so commonly used by road users currently is the Sir Apollo Kagwa stretch, also that connects you to the Makerere Full Gospel traffic lights there that we're seeing this morning. Also not having so much of any jam except at the traffic lights. Connecting to Kasubi through that lane seems to be a clear route, and you get to see the rest of the Makerere area territory having a clear route. Now, when you come from the Makerere Full Gospel lights, you get to meet these traffic lights that then take you onto Hoima Stretch, and that Hoima Stretch is where you do have Kasubi, Namongona, and the continuing communities there. The red zone, there is a red zone coming in all the way from Kasubi, building up to the traffic lights. There's also a red zone at the traffic lights there, and I think that's being managed by the traffic lights. These are the most interesting traffic lights. I think they are 30 seconds per turn. If you don't beat the 30 seconds, you're going to be there for a really long time. So if you can find alternative ways around this traffic light, then that would be advisable for you. But away from that, the rest of Nankulabye seems to be a clear area code, and then you come to a cross section here of Chadondo Road and Nankulabye Batema Road, where you do have another set of traffic lights there, and still only towards the traffic lights are you experiencing any traffic jam. Away from that, you don't get to see any traffic jam. This is going to lead you into the common area of Bakuli. Bakuli area code is having some sort of jump picking up. When you check the time, it's coming to 8, a few minutes to 8, and so most taxis use this particular route to get into downtown Kampala at the new taxi park and the old taxi park. So they use it to connect to Namirembe Road, or they will use, buses will use it because there's so many bus terminals in this very same area code, and so those are contributing to the jam that is later going to be building up around the stretch and around old Kampala for that matter. So basically that's how traffic is looking like to all the central routes that bring in traffic into the heart of the city. Be mindful of that. But again, driving permit. Is your driving permit still valid? Is it still in its 3-year term, 1-year term? You need to check and find out. And if you can, make an application as soon as possible, make your payments and get a renewal for your driving permit. Now, speaking of which, we do have weather. Woke up to a rainy morning, a drizzly morning, and I kept thinking, Molen, is this going to be a daily drill now? So Kenyana Molen is here to actually justify the morning little rain. By the way, showers or rains? Good morning to you, Molen.
Yes, a very good morning to you, Priscilla. And that is still a discussion of whether it is showers or rain. Whenever it rains, everyone looks to see if it is showers or rain. But I can tell you, the ones that we had this morning were showers. And I think one thing to note about showers is they clear easily, and just within minutes or a few hours it has already cleared. If it were rains, even up to now, we would be looking at those. Yeah. Yes.
So last month, July, you gave us an insight into the August report in terms of weather. And do we now see that report taking centership?
Yes, that is true, and we continue to see, especially what we gave as a hotspot for more rains coming through was West Nile, and up until now that area has continued to have more rains, parts of northern Uganda, and also for the Lake Victoria Basin, and that's where Kampala, Entebbe, Wakiso, that's where they come in, because you see with the Lake Victoria Basin we do have that advantage, and I say it over and again, as the lake tries to enhance wet weather activities. So even when the southern sector is actually forecasted to have reduced wet weather conditions, for us we still have Lake Victoria actually giving us some of those rains. So that's the advantage for us here.
Okay,
yes.
All right, and we do have continuing conversations in nature, weather and climate with Kenyana Molen. At 8 a.m, Robert Kirabo is going to be coming through for the business community. We yet have another dialogue this week also regarding business and how you can actually thrive through such times, and also feedback on how the inspection is going on for the arcades that are supposed to get inspection before they are allowed to reopen, which then causes me to warn you, if you want to get something from an arcade, please be mindful lest you are caught on the wrong side of the law. You're locked in and you may never be in time for your wedding on the weekend. So please be vigilant, wear your mask, sanitize and social distance. That is the best way we are managing COVID-19 until we wait for a full vaccination of at least 21 million Ugandans. Until then, stay safe, and that's from us to you. Later on, the conversation, the praises of Perith Chemtai and what that gold means for Uganda in such a time as this. Is this the wake-up call for governments to actually take focus and be more deliberate in investment into sports? Perhaps now is the time. The flag is high up there. Tomorrow there's other flags that are expected to be risen, courtesy of the 3 gentlemen that are up in the race for the 5,000 meter. But Ruben Mpima Chibirango is going to be here to give you an Olympic update. Good morning.
I want to send out greetings to you all, our audience here at Good Morning Uganda. Now, we did wake up to rainy conditions here in Kampala, but other areas also had that system, rains coming in early morning. But this is to prepare us for the rainy season that is forthcoming, that is within September. We talk about our second major rainy season here in Uganda, that is September up to December. But we shall be giving you updates and more details on that forecast as to when and soon as it comes in. Now, we want to take a deep dive and look at what is making news across the world, and that is a heat wave. When we talk about heat waves, I did have questions coming in even yesterday when people were wondering, is this a likelihood of what could happen even here in Uganda? Well, we are looking at climate changing, and when we talk about heat waves, we are looking at extreme weather events. This could happen anywhere, but there are variations towards which parts of the country where this happens. Now, especially for us here in Uganda, we do cross, the equator crosses our country, and that takes in areas within the tropics as well. Now, for Africa, the upper part of Africa is at a very, very high risk of having most of the effects of the heat wave. Even now we are looking at southern Europe having more wildfires developing and also rise in temperatures. So this is very close to even what we have. For example, I think we've looked at Egypt being one of those countries that have had temperatures within the 40s constantly. So if that were to happen like here in Africa, we would look at very devastating effects because our adaptation capacity is actually low, withstanding the stress that is caused by heat illnesses and also most of the effects, especially to crop failure, and it would really take a toll on the economy. But this morning we want to take a look at what Copernicus is giving us, and this is the satellites over Europe. They are showing the high fire dangers across southern Europe, a very huge sector of this area. Now where you see the darker colors from blue, orange, those are the areas that are still in high alert for the dangers, and that takes in what we had this morning from Greece being at record in over 40 years. They haven't had temperatures rise to what we saw today. Now that also takes in Turkey, where we continue seeing wildfires developing. We also have Iran in that area, Lebanon. All these areas are on a high alert for high fire dangers. Now Portugal, southern Spain, all these areas are really likely to have. Now you can see there is part of Africa actually here in Tunisia also in the high fire danger alert. This is what I was talking about. The extreme northern part of Africa is likely to have this heat wave and more effects coming also here. This is where we have Iraq and Iran. All that area is also under high fire danger and more fires likely to develop. Where you see the yellow colors actually are the areas also are in danger, but to a moderate level that could be developing. We are looking at a large scale coverage in terms of rise in temperatures and heat waves. Now when we talk about heat waves, basically we're talking about away from the normal. When you look at temperatures going away from the normal, for example, like here we're used to at 28 or at 29 here in Kampala. Now imagine those doubling, and you can't stand outside. So that is what is then named as a heat wave, because it's really above the ordinary, and that is also extreme weather events coming in as a result of climate variations. Now this morning we did get a forecast for Tokyo. Now they are looking at the highest ever for this season across the Olympics. This forecast is for 5th August, and today is looked at to be the hottest so far. We've been talking about heat illnesses even to the athletes in Tokyo, but today has been in the forecast for being the hottest, and we are looking at totals going up to 34 degrees. We are looking at 33, we are looking at 30. That could really be devastating in terms of people who hardly can withstand changes in temperatures. Looking at what is happening over there, it is in the red zone there at 34 degrees centigrade. That is what is expected to happen today. But I am happy with the team that is at the Olympics. They try to caution athletes about this and also bring in ways to make sure this is not a problem, like constantly giving them water, putting coolers around the fields, and that is something that can help with the situation over there. We are looking forward to this day being the hottest throughout ever since the games began. Now we also had reports from Greece marking their wildfires and heat wave as one of the strongest in 40 years. Now we are looking at 4 decades, and it's just coming up now, following also record-breaking numbers from California, record-breaking numbers from Canada, record-breaking numbers from Turkey. What we are looking at is a crisis. And you can see what you're seeing is all deep colors of pink, orange, yellow. All these are areas that have been in the record-breaking numbers across Greece. Athens is one of those that did show us more numbers in 35 to 40. Now the deep pink is actually 40 to 45. That number is what we have not seen here in Uganda. Imagine if that were to happen here. But as we look at the climate crisis happening across the globe, this is a likelihood for everyone over within the world. Now, what we've had mostly in Uganda here, we look at landslides, we look at heavy rainfall, we look at mostly flooding, but also drought. We did have Karamoja, most especially in northern Uganda, being worst hit by drought instances. But we could be looking at more as we're talking about the climate change. Now, what we are relating what is happening across the world to are human activities. And when we talk about human activities, we want to take a look at how the curve is looking like. Now, this is coming in from CB. What we do have, the line in front there showing in red color, the one above, is for carbon dioxide. Now, this is where I want to concentrate most. Those are greenhouse gases. Carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. And we're looking at the curve, it is only going higher and higher, and we're looking at a period of 1850 up to 2017. What happens is that now we see that greenhouse gases are actually increasing numbers. Having a curve go up and up for these gases, what does it mean to us? That means they continue to trap heat within the atmosphere. And the result is what we are looking at. We're looking at increased temperatures, bringing in heat waves and more wildfires. So this is the statistics of what is happening across the world, and this also is showing that carbon dioxide is related to human activities through our industrial processes, through burning of fossil fuels, and this is how we have gotten to the place that we are at right now. Well, we also have projections, and what could we be looking at? This is what the Paris Agreement is advocating for. Now, we have three scenarios. If we don't do anything in terms of climate action, then we end up with a +3 degrees centigrade increase in temperatures. Now, if we are mediocring around and, we try to do something, but then we are not really doing our best, we talk about, okay, we are going to ban fossil fuels, we are going to go to renewable energy, but then we don't do that. We have an increase of 2 degrees centigrade. Now, that is a global average. Then if we do everything that we are required to do in terms of climate action as guided by the Paris Agreement, looking at an increase of 1.5 degrees Celsius. This is what is interesting for me. We look at a 41% increase in the areas burnt by wildfires, and that we're also relating to the heat waves. Now, this is something that we can manage. Plus 41 degrees, percent in these outbreaks. That is manageable, and that is our target for a 1.5 degree Celsius increase in temperatures by 2050. But look at what is likely to happen if we have a +2 degrees Celsius increase in temperatures. We look at 62% increase in areas that are burnt by these wildfires, and that also relates to the heat waves. And this is why we are advocating again for 1.5. Take a look at +3 degrees centigrade. We look at 97% increase. Now that will not just take out a city or two, it will take out the entire country, looking at a +7. But if we do not stretch to climate action and follow the guidelines by the Paris Agreement, the articles that are stipulated there and all that we need to do, we're actually looking at a +3 degrees centigrade or even more. But yes, there is what can be done. And this is where we continue advocating for people to plant trees. Now, trees are sinks for carbon dioxide. They do take away some of the gases within the atmosphere, and they help to reduce on the concentrations within the atmosphere, but also look at what we can avoid. Fossil fuels, our cars that we use every day, mining coal, especially for countries like the US. This has been something continuous that needs to stop. This is where we are getting to all these concentrations of greenhouse gases within the atmosphere. Move to renewable energy. Now, we do have solar plants, and most countries are adapting to actually having more solar plants supply a whole entire region, and that is what we're calling renewable energy. It is something that we can do, but we still don't do that. Now, these are the likelihood of what could happen should we continue on the course that we are, that is coming in from the UN. Well, that is all the devastating news, but let's take a look at what is happening in our skies this morning over Uganda. Our satellites are still showing us those rainy systems that did start off this morning. Now we have one across the Lake Victoria region. That is what was bringing us rains even here in Kampala, and still raging across the islands of Lake Victoria, where you see the deep red, orange and blue colors. That is the rainy system now that was bringing us rains here in Kampala. But look at southwestern, the western parts of Lake Victoria towards Masaka. Now this system is moving towards this area and could be bringing us more rains later in the day. Also for Midwestern across Hoima, these rains are actually still there and are still developing across Lake Albert, Masindi there, also likely to be dealing with these rains this morning. Still, it is that system is only expanding. Now, take a look at this one here coming from Lake Victoria. It is starting to fade away from Kampala, away from Jinja, away from Wakiso, but it is headed towards Masaka, Bokoma, Simbi there, Sembabule. This area can expect to have rains as the morning goes through. Now, most parts of the country are having just cloudy conditions. We do have clear skies across northern Uganda and the Karamoja region, mostly sunny skies, but we are seeing those cloudy conditions that are also starting to develop across western Uganda and the southwestern that could be developing into light rains, but that will be later in the day. But most areas are dealing with intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions, and the forecast that we have for this morning, most areas will continue with those intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions, but we do have rains in the forecast for different areas. Now the Lake Victoria Basin, most rains have started to clear, and this is coming in from Uganda National Meteorological Authority, showing us the areas that are likely to have rains and those that are not. Now Lake Victoria Basin, the eastern side is forecast to have light rains, but temperatures will be at 25. We do have central Lake Victoria Basin. This is where we have Kampala. We did start off with those thunder showers in the morning, but most of those have started to clear, and temperatures forecasted to be at 25 degrees centigrade. Now western Lake Victoria Basin, that is where we have Rakai, we have Kalungu, Lyantonde in that category, Masaka, like I mentioned from the satellite, that a rain system is headed there, and we are forecasting thunder showers with temperatures going up to 24 degrees centigrade. Now western parts of central, that is where we have Mitiana, Mubende, forecasted to have sunny intervals at a warm 27. Eastern parts of central, that is where we have Nakaseke, Nakasongola, Luwero, we are forecasting isolated showers with temperatures going up to 26 degrees centigrade, but very light winds forecasted over there. Now Midwestern, that is where we have Hoima. Already that rainy system is there, and it's still forecasting thunder showers at a warm 27. Northern Rwenzori, we do have light showers, and for southern Rwenzori also Kasese, Bwera, we are forecasting those showers at 27 degrees. Kigezi Highlands, now that is one of the coldest places around the country. That is where we have Kabale, we have Kisoro. That area is likely to start off with rains as well, but temperatures will be at a cool 22 degrees centigrade. Now southwestern, that is where we have Mbarara, Boshenyi, Weberizi, Shema, we are forecasting isolated showers, and temperatures will be at 26 degrees centigrade. Well, West Nile, we're forecasting sunny intervals still across the northern sector. Also for the Karamoja region, we are likely to have mostly sunny intervals over there. Now eastern Uganda, still in the forecast, we do see rains across Soroti, Amuria. Those are likely to come in later as the day progresses. Northeastern Uganda, that is the Karamoja region, across Mount Elgon and eastern Lowlands, we do forecast to have mostly intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions. Temperatures will be at 26, that is across the Mount Elgon Highlands, and also the fact that this area is close to Mount Elgon, it does affect the temperatures over that area. Usually it is a cool 26, 25, but later as the day goes on, this area starts to have temperatures rise at least up to 29 degrees centigrade. Well, that is what we have for you in terms of weather and nature this morning. We do have sports coming up later, but Robert will be here just after this to give you a Good Morning Uganda agenda, and later on you can look out for Good Morning Uganda Extra with Jaginda Semakula. My name is Molin Kenyina, wishing you a good morning.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
It's a